Hey guys, welcome back to another clip of Schach-manuel-lernen. Today we have a special guest here, Antoine. Thank you very much for joining us. The reason why we are two together today is that we're playing a blindfold chess game. So I will put on the face mask that I don't see anything, and Antoine will make the moves that I tell him, and he will tell me the moves that my opponents play. So without further introduction, let's start the game. And you just need to tell me after the start which color I am.
Okay, so hello guys, I'll just start a new game now. Are you ready, Manuel, for this challenge?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Let's go then. So I guess we have the white pieces.
Okay, then pawn to e4.
So he played the knight on c6.
Knight on c6. Then we play knight f3. It's a bit unusual move, knight c6, to be honest.
Yeah, he also played the knight on f6 now.
On f6. Then we play pawn to e5.
Pawn to e5.
And we attack the knight on f6. Most probably we'll play knight g4.
That's what he did, yeah.
So pawn to d4.
Pawn to d4.
Because we need to support our pawn on e5. And now our idea is to play h3 in order to kick the knight from g4 away.
Okay, so now he played pawn e6.
e6, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we play h3.
h3.
And if you don't want to lose the knight, he will play knight h6.
That's what he did, yeah.
Okay, so then we play... Yeah, let's just capture the knight on h6 with the bishop.
Okay.
And destroy his pawn structure.
So he captured back.
Recaptured, okay. Then we play bishop d3.
Bishop to d3.
I think it's important now that we develop our pieces.
So now he played d6.
d6, okay. He attacks the pawn on e5. But it's enough protected, so we can play knight c3.
Knight c3.
And then we continue the developing.
Okay, he catched the pawn on e5.
Okay, then we recapture the pawn with our pawn on d4.
So he played bishop on b4.
Bishop b4, okay, he pins our knight. Yeah, if we castle, he has a rook g8, that's a bit annoying. But yeah, it's okay if we want to give up the bishop pair. So we play queen e2.
Queen to e2. Okay.
And if he will capture the knight, then we just recapture
with the pawn.
Yeah, pawn to c3.
Yeah.
So now our pawn structure is as well a bit damaged, but we have space advantage due to the pawn on e5.
So let's tell a bit maybe to the audience what is going on through your mind when you're doing blindfold chess, because I know that's something you really like to do usually.
Yeah, I really like to do because it's kind of the highest form of chess that you can play.
Mm-hmm.
And right now I really try to imagine if he will castle short side or long side.
Mm-hmm.
Because short side is more or less impossible because of the weaknesses he has on h6 and h7. And otherwise I really don't try hard to remember the moves that I made, because I play many years of chess, they are still in my mind. So I try to focus more if there's a hidden tactic or something that we missed so far. But at the moment looks good because we have a bit...
yeah, so now he played the knight on e7.
Knight on e7. Okay. Then you want to go to d5 or f5. So yeah, let's just short castle actually.
Short castle, okay.
Because I know he has a semi-open g-file, but we want to get the rooks to d1 that we can indirect attack the queen.
Mm-hmm.
and he needs to decide later as well in which direction he want to castle himself.
I guess you would have too many weaknesses if you castle on the if you did the long castle.
Yeah, exactly, because I have the pawns on a2, c2, and c3.
So now he played
So-
c6.
Pawn to c6.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, in this case we play rook a to d1,
To d1.
and now we threaten like bishop goes somewhere, and then his queen is under attack.
So you went away with the queen on c7.
On c7, okay, that's what was to be expected a bit. So I would say we can play does it make sense? Yeah, I guess so. Queen no, pawn to c4.
Pawn to c4.
Because the idea is that I don't want his knight on d5, and if you go on f5 we will capture it with the bishop, then he has more weaknesses, and at the moment it's still questionable where he will castle.
So maybe tell how would you say or what's like the most easiest way to start with blindfold chess in your opinion?
Yeah,
He played.
okay, I can tell you afterwards.
Yeah, sure. He played knight on g6.
Knight on g6. Okay. Then we play rook f2 e1. Yeah, I guess it's the easiest is just if you play with other people blindfold when they play also blindfold, but you still have a board to double check it.
Yeah.
He played
knight on f4.
knight f4. Okay. Then we play queen to e4. And now he has a strong attack on g2 if he plays rook g8. But after rook g8 we can capture the knight on f4. So that's not really possible. And if we capture our bishop, then his king will be eternity in the middle, kind of. So that's not really possible. And yeah, with blindfold, I guess you just need first a certain level in normal chess. But of course, you improve it automatically when you start to calculating different lines, like tactics and so on. And there it's important that you don't try it out, just that you
play safer moves.
Yeah, not really safer move, but by tactics that you imagine first everything that you want to play, and not play the first move, check if it's right or wrong, and then continue, because you need to prepare everything in your mind.
Okay. So now he captured on d3 with the knight.
On d3, okay. So now we can either restore our pawns with c2, but I recapture with the queen on d3, that he has problems on the d file long term.
He played then the pawn on b6.
Pawn on b6, okay. So now we need somehow the knight on d6, and he's on f3, so knight to d2. How many minutes do we still have thinking time actually?
We have 5 minutes and 10 seconds.
Okay, then we need to rush a bit. What did he play?
He played pawn on c5.
Okay, then knight e4.
Knight e4.
And if he captures the pawn, we have a discovery check and win the queen actually. So that's not possible for him. Now it looks quite terrible already for him because of the weaknesses, and my knight is much better than the bishop on c8. So that's the idea behind knight e4.
Now he played bishop on b7.
Bishop b7. Then I play... which one is better? Knight f6 with a check. Now you can play king f8 or king e7.
King e7.
King e7, but that loses a piece. Queen d7 check.
Queen d7.
Now he needs to capture the queen with the queen.
Yeah.
And then we recapture with the rook from d1.
To give a check and win the bishop.
And win the bishop on b7, exactly. And he's forced to trade the queens because otherwise he will lose the queen. So now he has to play king f8. It's the only available square for him.
Yeah.
And now we can play rook takes b7.
He played king on g7.
On g7, okay. Then we play rook to d1. We want to trade now the pieces and bring the second rook on the 7th rank to maximize our power.
Play the rook on h on to d8.
Okay, rook captures d8.
Yeah.
Then he recaptured, then rook d7.
Rook d7.
So we just try to exchange all of the pieces.
Yeah. So you want to win in the end game with like pawns.
And yeah, exactly. Because yeah, if he trades, then I will just win because of the knight.
He played rook on a8.
Rook a8. Okay. So then we play f4. Pawn to f4. And now we activate our king that is on g1. Like king f2, king e3, king e4 is the idea to play. And he doesn't really have a counterplay at the moment.
We played a6.
Okay, then we play rook b7. The idea there is we attack the rook on b6, and if he goes forward, we capture with the c4 pawn.
He played b5.
Okay, c pawn takes b5.
He recaptured.
He captured rook takes b5.
So he played pawn to c4.
Okay, then rook to c5.
He captured your pawn.
On a2.
On a2, yeah.
Then rook captures c4. And now we have the c2 pawn that should win the game, basically. How many minutes do we still have?
3 minutes 17. He
Okay.
played king on g6.
Okay, king f2.
I'm really impressed how you have like all this game board in your head.
Yeah, we can actually analyze it afterwards. It's like, but first we need to not lose on time.
Pawn to h5 for him.
Pawn to h5. Pawn to g4. And if he captures with the pawn, we recapture with the h pawn.
Yeah. h6.
h6, okay. Then king f3 to go a bit forward.
2 minutes 47 on our
Yeah,
clock.
should be enough, but it's tough without increment. But we will handle it somehow.
He played the rook on a3 to give a check.
Pawn to c3.
Rook on a1.
Okay, then rook to d4.
He gives a check with the rook
On f1.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we play king to e2 because f4 pawn is now protected by the rook.
Rook on g1.
Okay, c4, pawn to c4. Because if he captures the pawn now, we can give f5 check. And then when he captures, we can trade the rooks and then we can run with the pawn. That's the idea behind the move.
Rook on c1.
You can c1. Then king d2. That we push him away from the c file.
Rook on f1.
Rook on f1, c5. Pawn to c5.
Rook on f2. Check.
King on d3. That he's not going to the c file to stop the pawn.
He gives a check again. f3 with the rook.
Okay. Then king to c4.
He captures on f4 with the rook.
Okay, rook captures f4. Such a stupid move, he just uses a rook.
King on g5.
King on g5. Rook f1. Everything is
And
protected.
He just resigned.
He just resigned. Okay.
Congratulations.
So thank you very much. It was a tough game. We can just analyze it.
Yeah, sure. I'll give you back the mouse.
Perfect. So we just check that together. We are now as guests, and I don't want to have computer. So basically, I can explain you that here, like the opening, like knight c6 was a bit weird, but however, the rest was quite okay. Here he just destroyed his pawn structure, that was not so good. And yeah, then we just normal developed, and here we just decided we could have defended it, but then we run into a pin, and that's not what we want. That's why queen e2, capture, and then we just play against this weak bishop. I guess we also could have played first rook d1, but it doesn't really matter. And after queen c7, we played c4 to stop this knight, and his dark squares are just really weak. That's why we had this idea to bring the knight here. So knight goes there, we need to defend the pawn once more.
Is there like an opening that you prefer when you play blindfold, because you say, hey, it's like an opening that is more easy for you to recognize on the board, or
no? I would say, of course, like you study at home your theory lines, so against this you know a bit better how to play. When they just play random stuff, you need a bit more concentration, because you will never have it on a classical game, kind of that. But like here I felt really confident when he played knight to h6 already, because it was shown that he's not the strongest player. Side note, here we play with a guest account, just that no one knows who we are. Here he played b6. He also could have played bishop d7 in order to going for long side castle. That would have been the best. But also here is a bit the problem. Let's say after knight d2, long side castle, knight here. Then we bring the knight to d6, and it's just a huge monster compared to this poor bishop. And after b6, it's like, what happened? This idea is not bad, but it's just a bit too slow. Like, if black's move, he could just trade off the knight. But here it's already really, really hard. Like, this one here was not good because he just lost the piece, like in the game. The other option by king f8 is a bit better, but not much, because we still play the same move. And after capture bishop here, we still have an advantage because, let's say, of rook here. And then we bring a second rook here, and this rook is just trapped. So we have there still an advantage. And basically after the piece loss, it's more or less game over. We just try to exchange everything. And here now we are just a c-pawn that marches through. And here he realized that, he was actually defended, because I thought after capturing we can play like this, and then running with the c-pawn. But it's actually anyway defended. So no worries about that. And then here we just wanna that he's not on the c file, that we can just march with the pawn. And yeah, and then here he just missed that it's defended. He could have played like rook f1, but then we can just play c6, and after chess we can do this and then block it with the rook, kind of that. So yeah, that was the second blindfold game with a rapid speed. So yeah, we needed the time. We just had 1 minute 44 left. But I hope I could give you a bit further introduction how blindfold works. And thank you very much, Antoine, for joining us. And have a nice weekend, guys. See you soon.